Hey guys, Casey Santana with Chief Entertainment, Rich Soil Podcast. We have another guest today that we want to share with you guys. Welcome, Jesse. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Casey. Thanks for having me.
Of course, gotta stay hydrated. I'm probably gonna take some dabs while we're on here.
No worries.
Um,
Yeah,
feel
I
free
got
to
a
enjoy.
plus, a couple milligrams of plus pulsing through me, so I'm feeling happy too.
There you go. There you go. Got to enjoy our Memorial Day. And so, cheers to many of you guys. And thank you for your guys' service. If you're watching this, we are excited to share your story and everything that you guys are doing currently right now. Is just your story as a person in the industry, person that has probably quite a bit of background and some interesting stories with a Humboldt native um, background. So, let's dive into that. The first thing I always want to ask, Jesse, is do you have a morning routine and does it include any sort of fitness? Obviously, most of the people that are coming on are like cannabis and coffee, like that's a must have. So, if we were to extract that, let's say you already had your cannabis, you already had your coffee or tea, tell me what your morning's looking like.
Yeah, I'm pretty ritualistic, really. Get up the same time every day. I wake up at 5. I've been doing that for decades. Give my wife a little affection first thing.
Oh,
Poke the head in on the boys. The 7-year-old sleeps with these little fuzzy bunny ears on. It's like the cutest thing in the world. So I literally just like to watch them sleep. It's like the one moment of the day they're not little hellions.
yeah.
The boys are 7 and 9. Yeah, get myself together, have some muscle milk first thing in the morning to fuel the body. Actually work out after work every day. But I put in about 5 to 7 miles on my feet a day. The greenhouses are large. Lapping the facility kind of gets me working. But then my morning routine is I get to work every day, 5:45. We have about 100 clone domes there, so it's like 260,000 clones that I usually have hanging. I like to lay eyes on every single one of them every morning. It's kind of a ritualistic thing for me, kind of paying respect to that which kind of feeds the entire operation. I salute the crews, usually say hi to them personally every morning, make my laps around the facility, and then get rocking and rolling at the desk. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So since you jumped right into it, people are probably like, where are you at? It is nice to, I'll first say it is nice that you spend time with, or at least are grateful of the time and are aware of the time of, just checking in on your wife, checking in on the kids, and just being aware of that moment and then going to go kick ass for the day and then, doing what you got to do. So I'm very much like that. But yeah, they're a lot peaceful in that state. So it's like, okay, this is good. That's great to hear. I think a lot of people that I interview or a lot of people in our space, they do have some sort of routine lifestyle that includes wellness, and whether that's an activity or body movement or just being very present and spiritual. It seems to be very, very much part of our industry. And I love that. So the other thing I always ask my guests are, who would you consider a mentor for where you are today, who you are as a person?
I actually had a cannabis mentor, a dear friend. A gentleman's name was Mike, also a lifer up in Humboldt. And frankly, he was a financial client of mine. I worked for financial markets for about 10 years before retiring to get into cannabis. But he was a guy that, he was a client. We became friends. We confided in one another about our consumption lifestyle. And one day he's like, I'd like to share with you that I'm a grower. And frankly, I began to kind of teach him everything I knew about financial planning and capital markets. And he taught me organic pot farming, really sort of a 4-year mentoring relationship before I launched out on my own scenes in 2014. But a really dear relationship. And I learned a lot from him. I'm thankful every single day on the farm for that.
Yeah, sounds like you guys had quite the even exchange as far as, giving
For
each other
sure.
some gems to take back and grow from. So that's always great. Okay, so let's dive into it. You kind of touched a little bit about it. Again, we have Jesse Duncan on deck today. He's going to share a little bit about his story. He does have a native background with the NorCal, the heart of where a lot of people are very aware the cannabis industry and roots are started from. So tell us more about maybe your upbringing and kind of a little bit of your background. It looks like, you did a little bit of personal growing at an age 17. So I imagine you were smoking at a young age recreationally. And then it looks like you had quite a bit of a story with some drug treatment. And then now you're working for one of the, I would say, largest commercial farms out there. So tell us what your story is and how you got there.
Yeah, I'd love to, Casey. Yeah, born and raised in Humboldt, fourth generation Humboldt. My great grandparents actually homesteaded along the Eel River up there. There's stories of great grandma grabbing salmon out of the river and throwing them on the grill for dinner. Like, so Humboldt is really a deep connection of mine, a spiritual place, a beautiful place. I maintain a home up there. My oldest two kids actually live in that home still. We make it up there every few months, really. The cannabis was something that was around pretty much my whole life. My parents were children of the 60s and 70s. They kind of kept their consumption away from us, but we knew that that was kind of in the background. When I was 15 years old, I was playing golf with my two best buddies on the Eureka High golf team. And one of the guys sold trim joints for $1 a piece. And so we thought it sounded hip, and we bought some joints, and that really started a 3 decade long love affair with cannabis. A couple years later, like you said, I found a bag seed. And because my folks were understanding, and I was open with my use with them, and they basically said, just keep your ass in school and don't drive stoned. Those were their two, really ground rules there. They let me grow that little plant at home. Like, I love that little thing, Casey, like none other. It was like I knew nothing about pot farming. I put a seed directly in a 2 gallon pot. Was lucky it sprouted. It was this little string bean of a plant, not getting enough light. My mom showed me how to pinch tops.
17,
So,
right?
yeah, at 17, pinched it a couple times, branched it out, and I literally would bring it in and sleep with, like, it would be in my
Yeah.
bedroom, inside of the bed.
I can
And it
imagine.
was glorious weed. It was this strain out of Petrolia. They just called the Petrolia. Really limey, beautiful orange hairs, frosty. Like, I knew nothing. I put it in an organic potting mix and fed it kelp, like
Right.
nothing else. And it was gorgeous. And I remember harvesting. It just had like four nice tops. I
No
gave one to my
training. You just left it like
guy
let it
had
do
no
its thing.
idea. Like,
Right,
I
right,
had no
right.
idea, just
Yeah.
a plant in a pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave a top to my girlfriend, a top to my best friend. I kept two, and it was just really piney and beautiful. And I started to grow ever since. Just a few plants on the side of the hill in Hydesville, and then I
How
was
many years is
arrested
that? I don't want to ask
from
age, so let's just say
2002, so 97 to 2002, so 5 or 6 year run, just a few pounds a year, personal smoke. I love giving weed away. For me, it's a real human connection. I think it's an expression of love.
that's
And
that's
so,
your age 17 to 2002. So you've
yeah,
always
exactly. I was 17 in 95.
right.
So that was, yeah, 45 now.
So you
So
did your
7 year
experience.
run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, unfortunately, the neighbors, apparently their security alarm went off. The cops came to our place on accident, so they say. Smelled the weed that was drying in the shed. Kicked down the doors, ransacked the house. We were gone at the time.
Oh.
I was given a citation. Give us a call.
Hmm.
A few months later, they came and arrested me. Actually, 6:30 a.m. in my underwear in front of my wife. My 1 and 3 year old daughters actually put me in jail. That was before kind of the book and release thing up in Humboldt. Fortunately, we knew a guy that was an attorney. He got me out, but I had to do a 6 month outpatient, 5 day a week drug deferral program through Prop 36 as
Oh.
condition for, in lieu of jail time.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, that was really gnarly. I felt it was really heavy handed. It was right as kind of compassionate use was coming along. I wasn't smart enough to have a script at the time. And I actually got caught my first couple of tests because they screened you regularly. I came back dirty, and they finally said, all right, kid, it's, quit smoking weed or go to jail. And so I actually stopped for a few years, didn't cultivate for 3 years, didn't smoke for 3 years,
What'd
finished
you do
college,
for?
got my MBA.
Okay.
And yeah, that was that.
Wow. That's quite I mean, I'm sure that left an impact on your kids experiencing that. I mean, I've experienced the raid twice. One was when I wasn't there and just coming back to a completely ransacked place. I mean, completely everything you can think of that's in a crevice. And an experience anybody should go through, especially for the plant. Do you see a change? Have you seen a change? Do you think there's been a change?
I mean, I think there is some change in certain places, but I think if you look at the work of 40 Tons, Last Prisoner Project, I mean, the way that people are suffering for nonviolent cannabis crimes, I think it's tragic. I think it's terrible, and it needs to change. We're lucky, right? In Cali now, you can get pulled over in Humboldt with 30 pounds and basically get a citation. There's places in the world where a minor possession charge gets people hard time, and I think that sucks.
Yeah, it's amazing how they think we're so far along, but then there's a lot of parts that aren't like a lot of limelight on it, and that's the parts that we're missing on. But there's a lot of education, like you said. Those two organizations are fantastic. I've worked with one of them. I've been to some of the 40 tons events, and so big ups to them. So tell me now, what took you from being a Humboldt native to going to what's your position now there at Glass House?
I am the grow manager of the propagation area. So we right now are doing 10 acres of prop, which is all the clones, all the teens, all the mother plants. And then we're dropping another 10 acres going to the back half of the year to fund that nest expansion. So yeah, I'll be doing 20 acres. Right now we're like 18,000 moms. That'll be doubling. Clone numbers will be doubling. Teen numbers will be doubling. So yeah, definitely different. Largest scenes I managed up on Humboldt were like a couple acres.
Hmm.
So it took a week or so to get used to just the vast size of the
Right.
greenhouses, really. But I'll tell you, it was kind of a long time in the making. I got back into hobby growing after that few years, which I shared after the arrest and stuff. And then in 2010, I met that financial client who was doing really quite well. Um, Frankly, working half days, growing, 30 huge outdoor plants in the yard. At the time, outdoor was going for like 16, 17, growing indoor at like 35 a pound and was killing it. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'd like a little of that. So I kind of started inching my toe in the waters, helping people on their scenes, getting paid in product, moving a little bit of product. And then my mom, who's really our best friend, really such a support for me, my wife, the kids. She got sick with cancer for a second time in 2014. So I abruptly retired. I'd been doing financial advising for 10 years. I had my own firm. I was a certified financial planner. I was doing really well. But she had a really rough go with chemotherapy. She was just like, she was on liquid morphine and all this other stuff. We saw her wasting away. Her quality of life was slipping. And I knew she needed cannabis. And so I retired abruptly, transitioned all my clients to a friend who was also an advisor. And I started growing weed for my mom and for three or four other ladies who were also terminally ill with cancer. And that was indoor, small scene in town, little 16 lighter, but it was really fun, quite profitable at the time. Had a home invasion robbery, which happens a lot up in that area.
Yeah.
We were running double-ended lights, which are really hot, so you have to kick a lot of air out, and it was just too noisy. It was a private neighborhood alongside of a green belt, but the wrong people came through, and so I had a violent home invasion, and that sort of ushered me over into organic outdoor farming. And so from 2015 through last year, that's what I was doing. I just steadily worked up in terms of the scenes that I was managing. I didn't have my own farm when I sold the grow house after the invasion. I told my wife, "Hey, I'd like to buy a farm." She's like, "Dude, you're crazy, right? You're not taking our liquid capital and buying a farm after just getting robbed, right?" So that pretty much sealed my fate as a manager of farms, but in the dirt, all day, every day.
Yeah.
Went from 10, 12, 16,000 square feet up to like an acre, and then did a couple acre scenes the last few years. All organic, really, really awesome experience, beautiful hills of Humboldt. But I felt like it was time. We had a raid on a legal farm in 2020. The owners got caught, slipping some product out the back door. We ended up losing our entire second round dep, all of our term, and it was such a physical year. It was like exhausting, and we were all looking at really nice paydays, and that went away. 2021, similar story. I mean, even as the manager of three different farms, I got back like 2.5 months on salary pay. As you know, the industry
Yeah.
really prices collapsed. The pressure was on. Compliance expenses obviously stayed high and such. And I just felt like, boy, this is getting tough. You could see owners coming under a lot of pressure. They were under financial pressure. They were stressed, a little less pleasant to deal with. And so, frankly, I decided it was time to try something different. My heart goes out to every single person in the triangle. We'll talk a little bit about, I mean, I provide free consulting services to the state, to small family farms up there, because that's where my heart is. But I felt that I had the skill to transfer over, a background in business. And frankly, I wanted the challenge of kind of a new and bigger experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with 6 kids as well, I'm sure it is not easy to keep that afloat. So yeah, I think you answered my question there, but yeah, I'd love to know some insight on that. I think you touched on two things that kind of spiked my curiosity. I'm not from Humboldt area. I'm not from the NorCal Triangle. I'm here SoCal. I've always been down here. LA even is about an hour, almost 2 hours sometimes from where I'm at because I'm so far inland. But being around the community, being, a two-time judge, Emerald Cup judge, I am so much more aware of the heartache that happens for the small farmers. And I just recently had Noble Gardens and Arcana Flowers on, and they shared a lot of their, where they came from. And it's not just their products being, taken away and diminishing for them. It's their life, like, 2 years, 2 generations worth of land that's been there. And it's really just opened up my eyes. So the other thing that I've been diving into is what's going on up there because we don't normally know there's a substantial culture difference. Whether it's cannabis, it's one big community. There's still a substantial difference in how the culture is down here than up there. I came across several different cannabis documentaries and they covered Emerald Triangle at some point. And it's not too, I want to say it's a maybe 2021 documentary, but they're covering the crime that happens in there. And they don't talk about it on the mainstream media ever, obviously. Hopefully this doesn't get like shadow banned on YouTube or anything like that. But hey, it's something that's like that's really sad because one, we're talking about people's lives being at stakes. Like you said, you went through an invasion. Um, I can't imagine. Have you experienced or know of other people that have gone through more, serious things like that, or can you say,
Yeah, absolutely. In Bloxburg, boy, was it in 1920, might have been 2020, no, 2019. One of the neighbors on the lower property was shot, wasn't killed, but stole 600 pounds of first run depths. That was the year you might have heard about all the drones flying over the Honeydew area, heavily armed group of four, jacking farms up there. Our farm was flown with drones that year. I know that in 2017, atop of Bear Creek Road, where I was working in Dinsmore, I was out spraying one night. It was like almost like 11 o'clock at night, deathly silence. I heard like 8 pistol rings and a shotgun blast past the corner, 6 miles up that road, dropping down at midnight, like a guy was shot and killed. Yeah, so it happens, and unfortunately, there's a couple things going on. It's really remote. Criminals unfortunately know that it's like an hour to get to these properties for law enforcement. You can go east or west on some of these roads or just duck into a neighboring kind of ranch property, and you're probably never going to get caught. Obviously, money brings bad actors. And so there have been plenty of those stories, and it's really sad. My neighbor was, beaten up and jacked. Another dear friend of mine was beaten up and jacked over 100 pounds. Like it happens a lot.
wow. Yeah, it concerns me with everything that we have going on with, a lot of the crime that happens, especially here in California, that's kind of spreading everywhere. So hopefully, you guys, are you still up in I mean, you don't have to answer, but are you still in the NorCal area? Are you SoCal?
Yeah, I live right here in Camarillo, so like what, an hour north of LA,
Yeah.
because it's where the farm's at. But I still own my home up there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll be up
Awesome.
there actually in July for Fourth of July weekend.
Oh,
Spend a week up
exciting.
there, and
That's,
then my oldest is getting married up there in October.
oh my
So
gosh, how
yeah, we'll be
exciting.
heading back for a wedding for sure.
Have an
Yeah,
eventful year. That's exciting.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate the background on that. How are things looking there for a glass house? I know you guys are you guys indoor and outdoor mixed lights? You guys are just
No, we're
grown.
sun-grown greenhouse. So the nursery obviously has little twinkle lights to keep the moms awake and the clones going at night. But the greenhouse is zero light assist. This is all sun-grown greenhouse, perpetual harvest, year-round production. So the flagship facility here in Camarillo, which is what I'm a part of, we've got the currently it's just the 10 acres of prop feeding 20 acres of flower house there. Soon to be 20 acres of prop feeding 40 acres of flower house. You probably read we're trying to launch another 1,000,000 square feet right around the end of the year. And then our sister farms are up in Carp. There's the original like couple acre scene, and then a 5 acre scene. Those are run by a dear friend of mine, Tiffany Garcia, really strong, awesome Latina woman. And yeah, it's really awesome. And we do the prop work for all those. So we do the cloning, the teening, and the mother plant care. Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
footage to cover, I would say. But how do you like working for, I want to say, the small farms to that? Is that substantially different for you because obviously the scale's a lot larger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the core thing though is a love for the plant and the process and your people. And so whether I'm rubbing shoulders with, 6 or 8 people on a small family farm or 85 people like I have on the Flora Prop, these are people that are committed to the plant, committed to the job. The vast majority of them have a personal relationship with cannabis. So really it's the process is very similar. At scale though, obviously logistics is a little more complicated. Any changes to schedule can really back up the line as we've got clone domes to clear out, teen floors to clear out, on a massive scale. So adhering to production schedules, but yet trying to harvest at the optimal time, not necessarily what the spreadsheet said to do. Those can sometimes be complicated decisions. And then there's more time like on structural business stuff. So more like working on the business versus working in the business, probably half of my time is
Oh,
in corporate meetings and at the desk.
okay.
And then about half the time is literally on the floor with the crew. And my
Okay.
desk is in the greenhouse. So like I'm not in the ivory tower. And they gave me an office in the main office building and I chose to transition to the floor
Do
just
you
because
get
I
to
need
build out your own team?
the plants. Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the existing infrastructure was there. But I've been building out the team. A couple of assistant growers who are really strong, awesome women have come on. I just brought on a guy from Burbank. So yeah, I do have that authorization
Nice.
and that flexibility for
Yeah.
sure.
It's always
Yeah,
nice when you can cherry pick the people that
absolutely.
help you really grow that way. I have to ask, what do you get any slack from going from, small farm? I have to ask because, our industry is very much about community and there's some concern a lot that goes on. And so I think this gives us an opportunity to ask someone like yourself who seems pretty genuine and your love for the plant is pretty fair to say, even in your engagement on social media, is very much aware and a voice for where the plant is today and your love for it. So do you want to tell me, do you have any slack for, jumping over to the other ship, I guess?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, really, as I was leaving Humboldt, I wrote a piece because I was publishing
Nice.
a weekly cannabis column and it was my farewell piece, but it's where I sort of shared some of the darker side of what I'd seen and some of the stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that rushed into Humboldt, right? They came in for the money. They didn't care about the environment. They really didn't care much about the plant. They certainly didn't care about workers. And so, sort of that backstory, and I published some of what I saw in terms of environmental abuse, worker abuse, and stuff. And I did take a lot of heat that you're a traitor, you're a sellout, you're a narc, right? But I felt that that story also needed to be told in the very same piece. I said that I've met, some of the best people that I've ever met. These are like salt of the earth people who love the plant, who love the environment, who are actually improving these old dilapidated mountain properties, and I think really making the world a better place. That juxtaposition, it was kind of lost, and folks focused on, well, geez, how dare you say negative things about, the county or whatnot. And yeah, and cop weed, you're a traitor, you're a sellout, you get some of that stuff. I get every now and then somebody like trolls me or something. But frankly, it's like water, I just let it roll off.
Yeah.
I know what I'm about. My family knows what I'm about. My coworkers know what I'm about. And that's what,
That's what
but
matters at the end of the day.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear you. Well said. Okay, let's move on to, I mean, it was interesting that you have a financial background. So do I, corporate banking. It's just,
Oh, wow.
it's all over the cannabis industry.
Unreal.
It's really, intertwined in it. And I love seeing, the diversity that's in the cannabis industry. Our background is like crazy. Everybody here is crazy, creative to, having the knowledge of like a financial advisor. So would you say your service is back to our community as a whole in the industry, but more as a community?
Yeah, it's really that. I launched a no-cost consulting sort of informational and educational platform in 2015, NorCal Financial and Cannabis Consulting. And really, what I saw as I started to get outdoors is that you had a lot of farm owners. They're obviously very busy people, amazing skills. A lot of them have amazing, like, hands-on skills, building, electrical, plumbing, and a bunch of really amazing strengths with the plants. But where some of them were lacking was business planning, forecasting, budgeting, financial planning, some of those issues. So I kind of just built a consulting platform around sort of a marriage of business basics, financial basics like cash flow management, budgeting, investing, retirement planning, right? And I married that with organic cultivation practices, and really kind of took that on the road. And so anybody who is a small family farm, sometimes I get hit up on LinkedIn, hey, dude, your stuff looks banging. Like, can we talk? And I will always spend an hour on the phone with somebody and just share what I know. I think that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
I'm sort of an educator at heart. And so that's what I do. I just had a really amazing call with a little 10,000 square foot term farm, actually up in Humboldt, because I wrote a little bit recently about how to improve the value of your term flower, some strategies for that. And somebody's like, dude, I'd love to talk. And we had a really amazing time. And
Very
so I
nice.
really think that that's my 2 cents that I can give back to the community. I think I do have a unique marriage of business background, my MBA, and then also experience in the dirt.
Yep.
And so I like to share that with people for sure.
That's great. Yeah. And, when we're talking about consulting, a lot of people like to say they're consultants and there's the craziest fees with them. And I'm like, have you even grown a plant? How are you
Sure.
consulting? So
For
I do
sure.
appreciate that you have at least had your hands in the dirt and, what it's like to manage a farm, obviously, that you are where you are now. Your network, whether it's on LinkedIn or just your network of people that you've grown in the community with, fair to say, men and women, I think everybody, it's fair to say. But as far as like, is there anything different when you're looking at your network that we can, differentiate the two?
I think also some ethnic diversity. My wife's Guatemalan. My children identify as Latino. I'm very fluent in Spanish. Up in Humboldt, we had a really international community that came literally from all over the world to work on the farms. So really close friendships in the Hmong community, uh, all over the world, South America, Europe, Mexico. So really kind of a diverse network in that sense. I get hit up from friends all over the world regularly. Hey, what's up? A lot of them took a year off from coming to grow up in the hills because things did get tough and non-pay was kind of an issue. But same thing on LinkedIn. Obviously, gender diversity, ethnic diversity, people from all walks of life. I tend to post most about cannabis. Every now and then, I'll share some financial thoughts. But yeah, absolutely. In my workforce, very similarly, two of my three assistant growers are women. Six of the eight functional leads in the prop area, so that are sort of overseeing the actual functional activities, are women. I find that ethnic diversity, gender diversity, all that, it just leads to better outcomes, better conversations, deeper relationship, different perspective. And I've really found that to be a strength over the years for sure.
Yep, absolutely. I love different perspectives because especially with cannabis, not everybody has the same, same eye, same taste buds, same nose. So that's really nice to see. And of obviously supporting the women in our industry is huge. And be given a space in the greenhouse is huge too. I love women that can grow. I think it's a like an extra badge that women should carry in the industry when they really know how to grow, because it's not something that's it's not as easy as people portray it to be, especially to get it to its maximum potential. But yeah, I love growing myself. I do my own little indoors. They're always very personal, so they're small, but the love for seeing it grow from seed to having those beautiful colas in your hand and being able to see that is awesome. And then be able to consume it is even better. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. Now, where can we find out more about, like, I think you said on LinkedIn, they can can reach out to you for your consulting, but where can we support that and then find just a little bit more about you in general?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse underscore Duncan is my Instagram. I really post a portfolio work up there. Anybody that ever wants to DM and have a personal chat, get some free advice, happy to do that. I'm taking a little break off of my writing right now. I do a couple thousand word prop report every week, which is sort of replace my weekly column that I was doing. But I think in the near future, I'll launch something again. I really like to speak about the industry. I love to speak about cultivation, sharing, real concrete strategies and such is something I'm really passionate about. So keep your eyes out. I might launch something again pretty soon.
Nice. Those are great pieces. I've seen them myself. So
All right.
I think they're a great way to educate people. So the more we can get those out there sharing our experiences like this, I think it educates our community. So thank you again for coming on. That's all we have for today. Again, guys, this is Jesse Duncan. He is the grow manager of propagation at Glasshouse Farms. Thank you again for all your time. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in to Rich Soil Podcast.
It was a pleasure. Appreciate it, Casey.